Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to a post-match breakdown of City's first preseason game in America. Of course, it did end up in a loss. Not that I am too bothered about it, neither should you, but a loss either way. 4-3 to Celtic. Plenty of talking points in this game. There's a lot to make of it. A lot of different players featured, some who don't normally get a look in. A lot of the younger players, a few players who were out on loan last season who got a look in, maybe a few out of favour players as well. So plenty of stuff to really talk about and break down. A few little nice patterns that I saw as well. Again, I always enjoy this part of the season, seeing what Pep tinkers with, seeing where he plays certain players and see which players that he plays more than others. Maybe those end up having more of a chance during the normal season, but we'll get into that. We'll break it down. If you do me a massive favour first, and hit that like button, it'd be massively appreciated, and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And let's just get on with it. Let's get on with what I saw. I mean, let's break down. I'm weighing whether to do positives, negatives first. You know, which one I want to do first. We can get away with some of the negatives first, because we did lose, and it's never nice to lose, even though the loss doesn't mean anything. It's a friendly. It's still a loss. It's more the way we conceded all the goals. They were very counter-attacky. We were so open at the back. A few individual players just not defending too great. Joshua Wilson-Esbrand, who, 3 years ago everyone was going, wow, look at this kid against Wickham. And 3 years later, everyone's going, oh my God, what happened? Like, he's had a couple of loan spells. He's been out and about and got some first team football. And I'm not going to overreact. It's only the one game of pre-season. It's our first game. I don't think it was too bad. Some nice forward runs. In the first half, he was very much playing central. Both of the fullbacks, Rico Lewis and Wilson-Esbrand, were inverting, and Calvin Phillips was essentially playing as a third centre-back and slotting in the middle. So it was very narrow, and that's something that I don't particularly think that he's used to doing. He's definitely your typical left back who wants to get up and down the left flank. So he dealt with that okay on the ball, but when it came to turnovers of possession, which there were quite a few, because again it's a bit of a mix and match, bit of players playing all over the place. A lot of players who haven't played with each other before. When we inevitably lost the ball, because it was going to happen, he was caught out of position a few times. I think in the first half, all three of the goals he played a part in. I think that last one is probably one of the worst ones. I just feel like with him, again, 3 years ago, he was playing against Wickham and he looked pretty good, and you thought, maybe in a few years we might have something. We might actually have a left back. But based on this game, which, we've still got another 3 games pre-season left, and he is, again, still relatively young. And again, this is his first game of the pre-season, so I'm not overreacting too much. But he just doesn't look like he's progressed too much in 3 years. It almost looks like he's kind of the same player that he was, maybe with just a bit more experience. I think some of the defending is just chaotic. It's kind of just all over the place, really. Some of the 1v1 defending, I don't think he's great as a 1v1 defender. Again, it was very sort of... there was a lot of limb movement going on when he was 1v1. I don't know whether that was a distraction technique or what. And I think he was caught in a few minds at times. This is the thing that I will speak about on positioning. He was caught in a few minds where he didn't know whether to step up and try and play offside, or whether he should step back and try and, counter the running behind, because that's what we were getting caught out with a lot. And I think he was just caught in between two minds, to be honest. And again, some of that comes down to an unfamiliar role where he's playing very central when we have the ball. And so again, some of that comes with just, not playing this first game of preseason. So I won't go into too bad, but that's kind of the main negative. Is he's probably after game one, he's probably, if I was to do like a winner and loser of pre-season, after game one, he's probably the biggest loser of the squad. Because I just thought some of his defending was just all over the place. Maybe not necessarily bad, like too bad, but it was just a bit all over the place. Maybe a couple of wrong decisions or indecisiveness creeping in there. But that was kind of it for negatives, really. I mean, Celtic pretty much scored with every shot they had on target. Like, I'm not too bothered. They had 6 shots on target, scored 4. I'm not too bothered about any of the defending. Normal games, that won't happen, of course. It's pre-season at the end of the day. I'm not really too bothered. But I do want to speak on some positives, maybe spend a little bit of time talking about a couple of different players. First two I want to mention, because they had a really good link up in the first half. Of course, James McAtee ended up being subbed at half time, but Oscar Bobb, who completed the 90, and James McAtee had such a good link up in that first half. I've already spoken about Pep saying in his press conference that he wants to keep McAtee. He likes to have him about because he thinks we need a pocket player, and potentially not needing to sign a Dani Olmo or an Eze or another attacking creative midfield player, because if he wants to keep McAtee, why can he not do that? And he showed today, in glimpses mind, and it was only one half of football, that he can do that. His link up with Oscar Bobb, like I just said, was amazing. Grealish, whenever he drifted over as well, good link up there, the 3 behind Haaland. Like, if he has a good showing in pre-season, I'd be okay with having him and not signing another attacking creative midfield player. I think, again, it's only one half of pre-season, so you do have to be careful. But like I said in the pre-season preview, he's had 2 very good loans, one in the Championship, one in the Premier League, so he's obviously at the level of where he can contribute. It's just how much the manager trusts him and how well he can take the opportunities that he gets. And if he plays like this, I have no doubt he will get opportunities throughout the season. I think we could really use James McAtee in the squad if he's the type of player that we think he is, that I think he is, in terms of he's going to be able to play in the little pockets of space and, have some nice footwork and pick a pass. Then that's what we're going to need, because obviously there were games last season where we struggled to find Haaland. And it was a little bit of a struggle because, teams had man-mark, or teams would basically pack the penalty area, and we had struggled to pick him out, so having someone else in there would be a nice addition. And if we don't have to go and spend money and can maybe, think of signing someone somewhere else with that money, like a holding midfield player, which we desperately need, then that works for me. And again, that kind of segues on to Grealish. Grealish had, I thought, looked very energetic. He was very much allowed, he had the freedom to roam. He was allowed to pick up where the space was. He was allowed to drift inside, drop deep, pick up the ball, turn and run, that sort of thing. And again, that is something that Grealish has that we missed last season. We didn't have that last season because he was injured. He was injured a lot. And he was very much in and out of the team. Towards the end of the season, he didn't really play because that's when your team settles and there's not much rotation. And that is something that we just didn't have. We had Doku, who's a completely different player. We've had, Foden go out there, but his role has not really been high and wide. It's more been sort of, Vardiol has been the high and wide player when Foden's been out on the left. But having someone like Grealish who can do both the works, can go out wide and play like a winger, or can, drift inside into the pockets of space. Again, good link up, found Haaland a couple of times, few great passes that we couldn't convert. Haaland as well, 2 missed chances in the first half, gets his goal in the second half. I think that, I'll speak on him in a minute, but I think that, again, another good showing for him. He's making runs. A few times he's maybe frustrated that he doesn't get picked out, but again, it's pre-season. That's going to happen. It's going to take a few games. Most of these players, this has never been a team that we have fielded ever. Like, we have not played this exact 11 ever. So most of these players don't play with each other. But in terms of like the 3 behind Haaland, the creative 3 players, again, first half, even though it was 3-1 and we'd only scored the 1 goal, very, very solid performance from all 3 of them. Obviously, Oscar Bobb probably takes the cake there. I think he got, a goal and 2 assists. A goal and an assist. The assist for the second goal was unbelievable. Unbelievable footwork. And again, he's another player where if he performs well in pre-season, he can have a really big say in the next season. And again, you're looking at if McAtee and Oscar Bobb can really impress in pre-season, then all the thought of signing an attacking player goes out the window, because then you've immediately got these two players who can contribute. And again, that works well for us, because again, we need a holding midfield player. Because we don't have a backup. We don't have a backup to Rodri, and with the fact that he's not going to play in this pre-season because of his involvement in the Euros, we're probably going to need one at some point to, help ease him back in and help make sure that he's not overworked again. So again, if those players can impress, more than happy to keep them around. And then in terms of Haaland, just quickly, I think that it's paramount. It totally clicked with me in the second half when he got taken off. It's paramount that we keep this guy fit, because when he's fit and firing, he scores. You pick him out, he will eventually score. You give him 2 or 3 chances, he's going to take 1 or 2 of them. I mean, credit to Schmeichel in goal. He made a couple of good saves to the first 2, but then he gets his goal in the second half. And again, he's a frustrated man at times, not being picked out, but he keeps going. He keeps making the runs. He keeps being a dangerous player. And with Alvarez being at the Olympics and missing the start of the season, especially after the long season that he had playing games, he was one of our most played players last season. Then he played the Copa America. Then he's on to the Olympics. Keeping Haaland fit is essential, because Alvarez isn't going to be there at the start of the season. And even when he does get back, he'll have played a lot of football without a break. So this guy needs to keep fit. And he did. Again, on the fitness thing, that's the most important thing. That's why I'm not angry with I don't care for the result, to be honest. I did say on the preview that if we manage to get through pre-season without any injuries or any major injuries, that is more than okay with me. It's preparation at the end of the day. And as long as we get some good minutes into players and they are all fit, then, we've prepared well. And, I mean, credit to Celtic. They were, I think, a couple of weeks ahead of us. They'd already started their pre-season. They looked really up for it. They were really competitive. I mean, fair play to them for getting 2 yellow cards. It's incredibly difficult to pick up yellow cards in pre-season matches, but they managed it. But they were competitive. And for us being on our first game of pre-season, our first game compared to, I don't know how many games Celtic have played, but I believe they're a couple of weeks into their pre-season. Given the fact that our starting 11 was never at any point close to what it's going to be during the season, and given the fact that Celtic's starting 11, from what I'm led to believe, was pretty close to what their strongest starting 11 is, plus the 2 weeks ahead of us, I think that that's actually a really good showing. Forget the result. You take into account the circumstances around the game, and that's a very, very lively pre-season outing for our first game. Of course, the first half was a little bit ropey again, because that was our first half of football. Like, this season, Celtic have already played, and the sides were a complete mismatch. But second half, once we got into the game, once we found our rhythm, it was much better. And again, I'm fairly happy with that. Even though we've lost, I'm fairly happy with, the way that game came about. No injuries, few goals, few good performances from the players that you want to see performances for. Maybe some of the younger players, like I said, Joshua Wilson-Esbrand, I'm not particularly too bothered about him, lighting it up. Because I don't really expect him to be around too much next season. But from the likes of Oscar BOBB, maybe even Perone, players like that, good performances. And those are the players that you kind of keep in your eye on, aren't you? So, listen, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I don't think nobody should be bothered about this result whatsoever. If you're bothered about the result, then I think, I don't know what's wrong with you, to be honest. It's pre-season. This is what it's about. You'd rather lose here and be prepared for the start of the season than go all out and pick up a few injuries and be a bit behind at the start of the season, wouldn't you? So we take that. Second game, I believe, is against AC Milan in a couple of days. Yes, the 27th. So I'm looking forward to that. Again, no preview for that. If you want my thoughts on pre-season as a whole, you can go back and watch the pre-season preview. Like I said in that video, it's a entire preview of the entire pre-season. I didn't want to do one for every game because I'd just be saying the same thing. So again, if you want my thoughts on any of the preseason games, you can go back and watch the preseason preview. But after every single game, I'll be doing a video like this to discuss what went on. And I think I'll leave this one there. I think I've talked for long enough on a preseason game, probably a bit too long. It's only preseason, but there's a few interesting things that happened in that game, a few players I wanted to talk about. If you do me a massive favour on your way out, please leave a like on this video, it'd be massively appreciated, and subscribe if you are new. There's possibly a transfer roundup on the way. You may see Hugh on his adventure in the bright lights of Hollywood. If you've seen his Instagram stories, they're kind of just relaxing, innit? So, yeah, you may see him get bored and decide to do a video, but if not, potential transfer roundup on the way, because there's been a bit of news recently. But other than that, thanks very much for watching, and if there's no transfer news, I'll see you after we have played AC Milan.